Okay. So, hi everyone. Today we have Argha Das with us, who recently graduated out from NMIMS Mumbai in the year 2023 itself. So, welcome, Argha.
Thanks a lot, sir. Really happy and glad to be here. Thank you.
Okay. So, I hope if you are comfortable, so let's start interviewing you. So, quite
Sure.
excited to hear your journey.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Argha, can you briefly introduce yourself and then we'll go about them?
Sure, sir. So Marco, I graduated, as you said, this year itself from SBM NMIMS. Post that, I'm working currently as a management consultant in a firm called Trinity Life Sciences. With respect to my MBA diaries, it was a great journey. I had an inclination towards case competitions also, and I finished with 17 corporate and 59 national B-school competitions to my name. And the job that I also secured was through one of those case competitions. So yeah, I think overall, that has been my overall journey with respect to MBA, and that is where I am right now.
Okay, so that's great to hear that. So, Artha, my first question to you would be, can you brief us about your preparation journey, like in the year
Mhm.
2021 when you started, and how did you approach with the examinations and all? Can you brief us about that?
Right. So, in the beginning, when I initially started in the last few months of 2019 itself, for 2020, that I had some like I had already planned it off, and 2020 was going to my year, was something that I had already decided upon. And since at that particular point of time, I was also working in a firm. I was working TCS, that in a software developer role. So obviously, time crunch was certainly there because I had a full time job and I had to sort of manage it with the studies. But that is where I think the planning form of things sort of set in as to how you manage those 9 hours of your work, and beyond those 9 hours of your work, how do you manage your studies? So that is how I started initially, first and foremost, in clearing out the concepts slowly and steadily. Then once I got a hold of the concepts, then I started moving on to the tougher sums, the intermediate sums, and also substantially looking at last year papers from time to time. So that is how I started somewhere in the month of December and November in 2019 itself. And as and when the dates, the CAT dates and the other OMIT exam dates sort of started coming in closer, so the preparation sort of changed gears in respect to the time that I was giving in with respect to, further moving on to tougher sort of questions as compared to the initial basic ones. So that to balance it in terms of 9 hours of work in which I really could not learn a lot at that particular point of time. So either I used to take my classes earlier in the morning, or I used to take them after my job was over, and then sort of prepare in the time gaps and frames in between them and beyond them. That's how I used to manage the timing frames.
Okay. So you definitely need to take out time wherever you get the opportunity to. So that's the first mantra for
Sure.
everyone. Yeah. So, Arga, can you just briefly, like, since from 10th October onwards, this year's NMIMS season will begin, NMAT paper will begin. So,
Hmm.
can you brief us about how should one take this particular examination, or is there any specific strategy as to take or tackle this exam?
Sure. So I had scored 258 in my NMAT attempt, and during that year, my sole strategy was not just that I would be only going for NMAT. I had CAT in mind and I had ZAT in mind. Along with it, I also had NMAT in mind because it's obviously the clear gateway towards NMIMS, SBM and NMIMS Mumbai, and also SNAP in mind. So I had all of those sort of exams in mind. However, you have to basically shift the outlook that you had with respect to NMAT to which you are taken towards CAT, because CAT, the questions that come in CAT are a little bit different to what it comes to NMAT. The approach is to take a different approach of just solving like 30 questions in the frame of whatever time frame you get. In NMAT, it becomes much more to answer them correctly. So the preparation approach does not really change. It's basically the similar kind of questions with NMAT being conducted, certainly at a lesser level than CAT. But certainly with respect to how you approach that particular exam, NMAT is a much more bigger time game because you have to answer more number of questions in that particular time game, but also at the same time make sure that you answer them correctly. So in terms of the entire approach that I had taken towards NMAT, it wasn't really a hell lot different to what it was for CAT. But the approach in which I took the exam rather than preparing from the exam was something that certainly differed a lot. And for that, I think before, like as you said, the 10th October is the date from which the NMAT sort of season starts. So before that, what I did was I planned on which particular day I would actually be going for the exam, because you could select your slots previously as to when you want to give the NMAT exam. And prior to that, I just took a lot of mocks other than the CAT mocks, and specifically towards NMAT and SNAP mocks specifically, so that this particular change of approach that I've been talking about, I could practice well in advance before I hit the major end game.
Okay. So, Argha, what according to you is an ideal time to prepare for the NMAT examination? And also with respect to NMAT examination, like what time around the year should we select or schedule our paper?
So I had a lot of my friends that I remember in the same batch that we were preparing for, they had given like the first attempt of NMAT before CAT itself. But I did not want to take that approach at all. So my point was that I'm going to take CAT as the first exam. Once that is done and that is clear from my mind, once that particular form of approach is clear from my mind, then I wanted to shift on to the other exams, because as I said, the approach in which you sit for CAT and the approach in which you sit for the other OMETs are very different. So my point was, first and foremost, I'm going to clear off CAT. And then once that is out of the equation, then to thereby to move on to the OMETs. However, that was one of the strategies that worked for me. People who actually had given an exam initially for NMAT sort of understood the kind of questions that they were coming, and then they prepared for that again for a month or so. And again, post CAT, this sort of gave the exam. So both the approaches work. I certainly will not say that which approach is finer and which approach is not. However, I am pretty sure that there has been a change of rules, and now only the first attempt is considered for SBM and NMIMS. So in that case, I would just, my general suggestion would be to save that attempt post-CAT, so that because it becomes really difficult to shift that particular mindset in which you're solving questions. So because in CAT, even if you solve like 15 questions which are accurate enough, you're going to get a 99 percentile plus, or at least a 95 percentile plus. But the same story will not be applicable in NMAT altogether. So therefore, that particular shift of approach, according to me, would be the best after you're given CAT. And then you can solely focus on the OMET sort of frame, and then sort of change or shift your gears that is required, and then sort of go for it. So for me, I would suggest maybe a date or time that is 2 weeks after CAT would be a good way to go about it. That's how I had gone for it, and that's how it worked out well for me. So maybe that's how it can be a good strategy thereafter.
Okay, so that was a very detailed explanation given to you. So Argha, now let's move on from this particular stage, that is giving or taking the test, to how you approach for the interviews, especially for NMIMS.
So, sir, usually for NM, once you clear the initial cutoff, that is, so for the year, in our year and the year thereafter, the cutoff is usually hovered around 235 to 240 to actually get a call from SBM NMIMS. That is the main flagship program of NMIMS. So for that, once you clear the cutoff, then you are hardly given 10 days max to max, or at least a week max to max, post which the GDPI levels start. Now, in our year and the year thereafter, basically there were no GDs per se, but there was WAT and PI, in which you have to actually sit for the 15-minute WAT, W80 that is. And if you clear that off, then you are automatically moved into the, it's not like you clear that, if you do well there, and then the PI round is taken immediately after that. So in terms of the PI, there are and there can be a lot of questions preliminary from the work-ex that you have had. For freshers who do not have work-ex, questions thereby frame a lot around the sort of subjects that you have learned, sort of the projects that you have done in college. And for people with work-ex, there are a lot of questions that preliminary comes in from the work-ex part. Therefore, that particular part of the CV in which we write our projects, in which we write our work-ex part, all those things have to be learned in detail, have to be sort of framed in detail, so that when the questions come in from there, then the students are equivalently prepared. Other than that, a lot of questions also come in with respect to why MBA, which particular field of MBA, why do you want to go into this particular field, why this industry, and those kind of things. So certainly it is completely okay for a person to not be clear enough right now as to which industry they should go now, but at least it helps to have some sort of a picture that as of now, I'm not sure that I want to go into finance or marketing, but I have certain sort of interests which are aligned towards marketing. So thereby some sort of a preliminary approach towards marketing, learning the 4 Ps, learning and looking at how some campaigns are made, those kind of things and those kind of questions are also something that a student can obviously expect. Other than that, also in NM interviews, a lot of questions come around current affairs, basically linking the current affairs with respect to a case. So even in the NM, a particular case-based pedagogy is followed, in which every subject of ours at least has 10 or 12 sessions in which we are taught particular business lessons through cases. And that particular thing you also get to see in the interviews, where a person might just randomly ask you a very small case of like 30 seconds or 40 seconds and ask you an approach for that. So for those also kind of things, you really need to be a little hobnob with the current affairs that are going in, so that you can actually frame your answers that will be relevant enough towards the solution of those cases. So I think those kind of things were something that was actively asked in my interview, and certainly at the end, towards the end of the interview, questions around my hobbies, sports, or something that I'd mentioned as hobbies, those also come into the picture. So whatever you write in your CV, certainly you have to be 110% prepared for it. Along with it, some other current affairs, some other aspects of MBA that you want to venture into, some basic idea about those also, I guess, help a lot towards finally clearing the PIs.
Okay. So that was a very comprehensive answer, Arga. And I hope that it has cleared everyone's doubt, at least those who will be having at a later stage after taking the examination. So, Arga, I would really like to thank you for taking up time and helping our fellow peer mates, even your now those who are going to join NMIMS. It will be very helpful for them also. So, thank you so much, Arga.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot for having me. And a big thank you to Mockzone also. I was an ex-student of Mockzone, and I had specifically given the mocks for NMAT and SWAP, which helped me a lot finally when I was actually sitting for the exams, because the questions were very similar, the type of questions were very similar. So I think those particular mocks, those particular classes that I took from Mockzone helped me a lot at the end of my, towards the end of my exam scenarios. So certainly a big thanks to them also for actually doing all of it, what they had done for me, and finally to make me the person that I'm here after my entire stint at NMIMS. So a big thank you to that also, sir, for having me and for the entire journey.
Thank you so much, Arga, for your kind words. And, and you are very welcome even after your MBA life. If you have anything you want to, you can definitely reach out to us anytime. Okay.
Sure, sir. Sure,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.